Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. How Trump rescued rescued Scientology from the deep state. Now, I know I've been trying to get to this book for a bit, been moving around a lot, and I'm finally getting some tech figured out. So let's take a look at this book. How Trump Rescued Scientology from the Deep State. Scientology Saved from the Claws of the Deep State series, number 2, by Andreas M.B. Gross. I'm not going to spend much time on his information there or the table of contents. If you really want to take a look at those, you can pause the video. There's good old L. Ron Hubbard in 1950 with his Dianetics book. I have not looked into it yet, but I know a place that has been looking into it. I may get to their content eventually. As I do, I will pass it along. So let's get on into this thing. Trump is helping Scientology, ending the deep state's war against us. Sounds like some stuff we've been hearing, huh? In 2016, I spent the year in hopelessness as I saw the world go towards the abyss. I even prepared myself for World War III, becoming a quote-unquote prepper and investing thousands in prevention. Pause. To pull a Laura. There's been some Mormons that went off the rails with this prepper stuff. If you're not familiar with it, you can check into like Tim Ballard, Ruby Franke, Jody Hildebrandt, Lori Vallow Daybell, Chad Daybell, that whole book, The Visions of Glory. You can check Mormon Stories for that one. Anyway, unpause. I even thought of moving to New Zealand to protect my family from the coming radioactive fallout. Having Hillary Clinton elected as U.S. president meant total confrontation, war, and destruction of civilization, not just in the United States. Given that Scientology has also been on the decline since it fell into the hands of the deep state in 1972, I saw no hope, because nuclears and OTs that could have contributed to the freedom of mankind have not appeared since 1978. See later in the book. Pause. All right, so if you're not familiar with Scientology, I can send you some directions to there. I recommend Dazed But Not Confused. Doug Scott Kramer, may he rest in peace. So, yeah, we were going to do some work together, but moving on. Clears are anybody who has reached the operating Thetan level of 3 or higher. They've gone through a lot of training. It's a bunch of nonsense and brainwashing. And then the OTs are operating Thetans. And there's a scale from 1 to 8. 8 is the highest level. That includes such characters as Grant and Elena Cardone, David Miscavige, Tom Cruise, let's see, John Travolta. That's just off the top of my head. I know there's some more. But they think that they can clear the planet of all these Thetans. Marilyn Honig did a video with an ex-Scientologist comparing evangelical demons to Thetans. That was a rather interesting interview. So, Coffee Cults and Crafts, or Coffee Cults and Crafts, I think is the name of her channel on YouTube. All right, unpause. But then Trump came into my conscience. When he surprisingly won the presidential election in November 2016, we quickly found out who we were dealing with. His campaign video was promising and gave me a little hope. Since JFK was assassinated, no president had dared to interfere with the dirty politics of the deep state. Yet, here was this declaration of war against the cabal. All right, pause. I just want to ask this question. How come Donald Trump has never released or none of the presidents, as far as that goes, since JFK has released the entire JFK file? I suggest you go check out Leaving the Message on YouTube, or search out the William Branham Research Center, Historical Research Center, and look into the JFK assassination video. Just putting that out there. All right, unpause. But who could prevent the deep state from simply killing him? I had little hope in his abilities because I already knew then that he had well-educated Scientologists in his circle of friends. Pause. Yeah, Grant Cardone. Elena Cardone. Elena Cardone is the one that started the GoFundMe to raise the defense funds for Trump when he was in court in New York. You remember that 138 million or whatever it was he needed? All right, unpause. When I bought his books and decided to find out in depth who this man was, wow, essential concepts of the Scientology doctrine can be found in them. Hope rose. But the question remained, what can one man do alone against the New World Order? Pause. George W. Bush. Y'all remember that? Ministry did a song about it called New World Order. Anyway, unpause. Which is not so new at all. Pause. That's true. Anytime that there's been a shift in global power, or empirical power, empire power, there's been a new world order because there's been a shift in the power dynamics and there is a new control system. All right, unpause. It has been forged for millennia and has been almost perfected today. A surveillance stronger than Orwell's 1984, combined with a psych mind control state more perfected than Huxley's Brave New World, with chemtrails, HARP, 5G, drone murders, and robotic armies, perpetuated by the corrupt political class, funded by a complacent middle class through oppressive taxes. Wow, there is so much pause. Wow, there's just so much to unpack there. Just so much to unpack there. So many conspiracy theories. The extended contrails, as it turns out, are exactly that, contrails, but because of certain atmospheric changes due to global warming as a natural response of our environment to the sunspot activity, which currently in October of 2024 is at a solar maximum. So, of course, the planet's going to warm. Contrails are going to last longer because the temperature differentiation is less. And this is why also that we are seeing worse storms. That has nothing to do with HARP or 5G. Oh, yes, on the Brave New World thing, there's a lot of Scientology in Huxley's Brave New World, but that's because he was associated with L. Ron Hubbard. And when it comes to Orwell's 1984, if you listen to Miriam Francis and Sterling Tompkin, they did a crosstalk about how 1984 helped them realize that Orwell was talking about life in the Sea Org in Scientology because Huxley was Orwell's French professor in college, and that's how Orwell met Hubbard. Anyway, it's a crazy tangled thing. But one more note. Hubbard did not like Orwell because 1984 is actually the description to and therefore the answer to Scientology as far as stopping them, untangling them, demystifying them. All right, unpause. Back to the article. Trump, though, was never really alone. He is a successful entrepreneur. Pause with like, what, 6 bankruptcies? Unpause. A team player who can excellently assess people. Pause. General Mike. Why did I throw that general in there? Mike Flynn. All right, Mike Flynn. Oh my goodness, the Real Waco in America tour. Y'all need to go check out Magical Mystery Church. Laura has done some really good work on the Real Waco in America tour, and also the my phone did something weird there. Also the New Apostolic Reformation. All right, Trump is not a team player. Unpause. And put them in positions to create the necessary group to reach the set goal. Pause. Yeah, wow. Okay. Real Waken America Tour, New Apostolic Reformation. Unpause. With his show, The Apprentice, he has demonstrated the most important ability for leadership, knowledge of human nature and the ability to separate the wheat from the chaff, to distinguish traders from loyal staff. Paused. Project 2025, loyalist military, anyone? Unpause. But is that enough to preserve freedom in the world? Very questionable, because the rulers of this world are also very organized worldwide. Nation states are obsolete since the World War II. We are subject to global world domination. UNO, the World Bank, the International Criminal Court, Hollywood, the Vatican, and the City of London, together with the U.S. military-industrial complex and their counterpart, the Saudi-funded international terrorism, dominate the world. Who cares if this world government was never elected? Holy cow. As a MAGA apostate, I got to admit, man, I heard a lot of this. And while I was in MAGA, I promoted a lot of this. I'm sorry, did I not say pause? I don't know. Anyway, yeah. There do seem to be links between Saudi Arabia and international terrorism, but that's beside the point. All right, next page. It goes on to say, I care a lot. You should too, because your future and the future of your progeny depend on it. In January 2017, immediately after Donald Trump's inauguration, I wrote this petition to Trump, hoping he could help us. All right, let's do this. Please end the unconstitutional control of Scientology by the deep state. All right, pause. Operation Freakout, and no, I'm sorry, that was a Scientology operation. Operation Snow White was when Scientology, in, I want to say 1977, infiltrated the U.S. government with 3,000 plus agents. And that was after they had already infiltrated, what was it, three international organizations, and I don't remember if it was 11 or 7. I think it was 11 sovereign governments with the intention of controlling them before infiltrating the U.S. government, specifically the IRS, because in 1968, the IRS had revoked Scientology's tax-exempt status. So, yeah, there's a whole story to it. Doug Scott Kramer can tell you about it. Anyway, let's read this letter. Dear Mr. President, we free Scientologists would like to contribute to the task of making America great again. The American writer L. Ron Hubbard developed an advanced technology to free the human mind from the past experiences, trauma, so that the people can think clearly and manage their lives successfully. Einstein once said, we only use 10% of our mental potential. Pause. That's because there's a whole lot of stuff going on in our body that's completely automatic, and that requires brain space. Okay? You're breathing. You don't have to think about that because that's automatic. Right? Your heart beating. You don't have to think about that because that's automatic. When you touch something hot with your hand, when you feel it because there's things going on that are automatic. So anyway, unpause. Scientology and Dianetics were developed to make our suppressed capabilities available. Okay, quick pause. Dianetics, Scientology rather, was based on the Kubark document, just like MK Ultra was. The big difference is MK Ultra used mind-altering drugs. Scientology just used mind control. Unpause. From its very beginning in 1950, Hubbard came in conflict with the misuse of psychiatric methods by U.S. intelligence, the beginning of MK Ultra, the development of the Manchurian Candidate. Since then, Scientology has experienced a hidden influence by intelligence agents, which finally took over Scientology in the 1970s and put it under the control of the deep state. No, that's not accurate. But of course, he's not working with the whole truth here. All right, moving on. Sorry. During the Cold War, the CIA and other agencies did research in the field of psyops and psi capabilities, which could be used as weapons, i.e., to spy on Russia, to spy on the Russian enemy. Pause. Okay, so he's referring there to Project Stargate, which was a remote viewing project. That was participated in by Major Ed Dames, who has been featured a number of times on Art Bell, as well as, to the best of our guess, a certain Paul Kane, who disappeared after running around with William Branham for a while as, from what I understand, a campaign manager, booking the tent revival ahead of time. And then Paul Kane is part of the Kansas City Prophets, and an influence on what later became International House of Prayer, Kansas City, which there's currently and still has been for like a year now, a big scandal over Mike Bickle. All right. Unpause. In 1972, they hired some Scientologists, including Ingo Swann and Hal Puthoff, to investigate the practical possibilities of the mental techniques developed by Scientology, or in Scientology by Hubbard. They were alarmed by the results. Swann proved the possibility of leaving the body, astral projection, and going where he wanted as a spirit and perceiving and reporting back with what he had seen. We're talking astral projection. Kind of like maybe Kat Kerr and some of those New Apostolic Reformation prophets who keep going to heaven. Maybe they're doing this astral projection stuff. Maybe they're doing Scientology. I guess I may have to do a whole breakdown on that. I'll try to remember to. I actually did a video on Scientology. I'll try to remember to stick the link in the description here. So, yeah, the results were useful for the military. As the intelligence community wanted a monopoly on these capabilities, they not only researched further into this field, but put Scientology onto Nixon's enemy list and used the FBI COINTELPRO to get rid of Hubbard. The Interpol warrant was issued and he was imprisoned on 4 December 1972 without a chance of legal recourse, and took over control of the organization of Dianetic and Scientology. Pause, that's not exactly how it played out. there's several people out there that have talked about this convicted felon L. Ron Hubbard and how he went back to running Scientology after he got out of prison, kind of like Sun Yun Moon did with the Moonies and Jim Baker did with his little evangelical congregation. So back to the article, or back to the book. One method of the takeover was the use of the agent provocateur Meeser, who infiltrated Scientology and offered as a double agent to infiltrate the IRS to steal documents regarding Scientology, which should have been released to Scientology according to the FOIA in the first place. That's not how it worked. This led to the FBI raid against the Scientology Guardian Office, which after this became the Office of Special Affairs, which was overseen for a couple of decades at least by a certain Mike Render. You might know his name. He's a friend of Leo Remini. So, unpause. Where was I? Okay, so this led to an FBI raid against Scientology Guardian Office and finally to the imprisonment of nearly a dozen Scientology top executives, including Hubbard's wife, Mary Sue Hubbard, in the late 1970s. Okay, that much is true, but he's not telling you why. And I'm not going to get into it right now. Moving on. So the way was free for CIA assets like David Miscavige and Heber Jensch, as documented on, there's a web address there if you want to go check it out, led by the IRS Department, SSS, whatever that is, to take over full control of the management of the Church of Scientology at the beginning of the 1980s. So this dude's saying that Miscavige is a CIA plant. Interesting. All right, so let's try to finish up this letter. The technology to free the human mind developed by Hubbard was rewritten and revised in the name of Hubbard in a destructive way, so that the parishioners of Scientology lost their chance to apply that for themselves. Most of them have been cheated and deprived of their rights up till the present day. And then there's an Abraham Lincoln quote inserted here. Quote, "You can fool all the people some of the time and some of the people all the time, but you cannot fool all the people all the time." All right. I think this might still be the letter. Recently, because of the FOIA, old CIA documents up to the 1970s have been declassified and published on the internet by the CIA's CREST. Looking at the keyword Scientology, one can only find around 100 documents, just a few newspaper clips, but no internal CIA documents about the broad activities of the U.S. against my religion, although courts have ruled these documents should be released. The CIA still keeps its activities against Scientology secret. This proves that these activities are still ongoing, as the documents are not declassified. This is not only a heavy violation of the U.S. Constitution, as the state should not interfere with any religion of the people, but as I had mentioned at the start of the letter, the original Scientology, as developed by L. Ron Hubbard, contains the methods and techniques to free the human spirit and mind from past experiences and constraints. Oh, wow, that's a mighty big boast. And I haven't interrupted in a moment, but this guy sounds a lot like those New Apostolic Reformation preachers, those folks that follow, as Laura says, the people that follow that 17th letter of the alphabet. Yeah, you know the category of folks I'm talking about, I hope. The Trump supporters. Yeah. Continuing. Scientology can make available the suppressed parts of our mental potential. We need all the resources available in each person to survive the global crisis which is ahead of us. Doomsday, doomsday. We need many more people as clear and powerful as you, Mr. President, obviously are. Oh, so like some of these evangelical Republicans are thinking that Donald Trump is the savior of America and the savior of the world, which is not how it works. This guy thinks he's a great Scientologist. Interesting. Let's go ahead and finish out this letter, and then I'll close out this segment, and I'll come back with another video picking up on the next page. So please help us to help you. Please help to rehabilitate the true potential of Scientology by ordering the CIA, FBI, IRS to release all documents on their activities against Scientology, including the secret imprisonment of L. Ron Hubbard from 1972 on. Order these agencies to stop infiltrating Scientology and get them out of our church. Let these agencies investigate the potential of Scientology and instead how it can be applied to make America great again. There are many applications, among them in the field of education, where Hubbard's study methods can be used to eradicate illiteracy, as is done in public schools and universities in many countries, but not in the USA. I'm going to have to go ahead and do a video on all the different front groups from Scientology, but one of them is called Applied Scholastics, and they have pumped a lot of their propaganda into a lot of public schools. I think it was like 9-10 years ago, a while back, there was a whole bunch that were pumped into the Australian school districts. And it apparently hasn't helped them much. So, in closing, thank you for being there and taking the responsibility for the post of the U.S. President. I love you too. Most respectfully, Andreas M. Gross, C.E.